In global finance today, decisions are happening faster than ever. And when execution can't keep up, institutions don't just lose time. They carry risk longer, trap capital, and expose balance sheets to windows of uncertainty they can no longer model away. Treasury systems are forecasting liquidity in real time, risk models are updating continuously, and automation is creeping into places once reserved for human judgment. But the money those decisions depend on still settles on rails designed decades ago. That mismatch is no longer theoretical, and it's starting to matter. Something subtle has changed inside financial institutions over the last few years, and most people haven't noticed it yet. The tools used to decide where money should move, treasury systems, liquidity forecasts, internal risk models, are accelerating. In many cases, they're no longer purely human-driven. At the same time, the systems responsible for actually moving money across borders remain slow, sequential, and opaque. This creates a strange disconnect. The front end of finance is becoming machine-assisted, while the back end is still constrained by correspondent banking, daylight settlement windows, and multi-hop reconciliation. From the outside, everything looks functional. From the inside, the timing no longer lines up. This video is about that gap, not from a hype-driven perspective, but from an architectural one. Because once decision-making starts to outpace settlement, the entire system has to adapt. Everything here is for educational and entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. If clear, no hype crypto education helps you make sense of all this. Hit like and subscribe. It tells YouTube this series is worth showing to other newcomers, and it helps me keep building it for you. At its core, modern finance is a coordination problem. Institutions don't just move money, they manage timing, risk, compliance, and liquidity across thousands of counterparties. For decades, this coordination happened at human speed, supported by batch processing and delayed settlement. That assumption is breaking down. Treasury platforms are now capable of forecasting cash needs, currency exposure, and liquidity buffers continuously. Automation doesn't mean institutions hand over control to machines. It means machines surface decisions faster than humans ever could. But faster decisions only help if execution can keep up. When settlement lags behind intent, capital gets trapped. Risk stays open longer than necessary. And efficiency gains at the decision layer never fully materialize. The Swift messaging network was never designed to be a real-time settlement engine. Its purpose was coordination, standardizing how institutions communicate payment instructions, confirmations, and status updates. Over time, it became the backbone of correspondent banking, not because it moved money, but because it connected the parties who did. Even today, Swift is evolving. The transition to ISO 20022 has dramatically improved data richness and standardization. That matters. Better data enables better automation, compliance, and tracking. But it does not eliminate the underlying settlement model. Messages still travel faster than money. Correspondent chains still introduce delay. And finality still depends on a sequence of intermediaries reconciling balances across time zones and jurisdictions. Inside corporations and financial institutions, Treasury is often where innovation either proves itself or quietly dies. This is where liquidity planning, funding decisions, and risk controls converge. Modern Treasury systems are no longer static dashboards. They ingest real-time data, model scenarios, and increasingly assist decision-making. This isn't science fiction. It's practical optimization, deciding when to move capital, how much buffer to hold, and which routes minimize cost and exposure. But these systems don't settle money themselves. They hand off instructions to external rails. And when those rails can't execute with the same speed or predictability, the value of automation hits a ceiling. This is where artificial intelligence becomes a forcing function rather than a feature. AI doesn't demand novelty. It demands consistency, speed, and clear outcomes. Imagine a Treasury system that identifies a short-term liquidity imbalance across regions and recommends a transfer to rebalance exposure. The decision is correct, the timing is correct, but if settlement requires multiple intermediaries, delayed confirmation, and next-day finality, the risk window stays open. The insight arrives instantly. The execution does not. If a system forecasts a liquidity need and recommends a transfer, the execution layer must be able to complete that transfer quickly, deterministically, and within regulatory constraints. If it cannot, the recommendation loses value. The problem isn't that Swift or correspondent banking is broken. It's that they were designed for a world where decisions were slower and tolerance for delay was higher. AI simply exposes that mismatch. This isn't about AI moving money on its own. It's about AI revealing where settlement systems can no longer support the speed of modern decision-making. A settlement layer is not a user interface, and it's not a messaging system. It's the point where intent becomes irrevocable outcome. It's not a trading venue. It's the mechanism that turns intent into finality. At an institutional level, a modern settlement layer must do several things at once. It must support regulated digital money. It must integrate with custody and compliance controls. It must settle transactions deterministically without probabilistic outcomes. And it must connect across networks, rather than forcing everything onto a single rail. This is not about replacing everything that came before. It's about adding an execution layer capable of operating at machine speed while remaining institutionally acceptable. Regulated stablecoins change the equation because they introduce a form of digital money designed specifically for settlement. Not speculative instruments, but programmable representations of fiat value with clear issuance, redemption, and custody frameworks. When combined with deterministic settlement systems like the XRP ledger, this creates something new. Transactions either settle or they don't. There's no ambiguity about finality. No extended reconciliation window. No need to wait for multiple intermediaries to update internal ledgers. For institutions, that predictability matters more than raw speed. It reduces counterparty risk, simplifies accounting, and allows capital to be reused sooner. Global finance is not converging onto a single ledger. If anything, it's becoming more fragmented. Tokenized assets, bank-issued stablecoins, CBDCs, and legacy systems all coexist. In that environment, routing becomes just as important as settlement. Value needs to move across networks without breaking compliance or introducing new risk. This is where cross-ledger routing models enter the picture, not as replacements for settlement systems, but as connective tissue between them. The goal is not universality, it's interoperability with control. Viewed individually, custody, stablecoins, prime brokerage, and on-chain settlement can look like separate products. Viewed together, they form an execution stack. Ripple's institutional architecture brings these components into a single framework. Regulated digital money for settlement, bank-grade custody for control, liquidity and execution services for routing, and a deterministic ledger for finality. The result is not an AI system that moves money on its own, but an infrastructure capable of executing machine-assisted decisions safely and predictably. That distinction matters. As decision cycles compress, architectures like this don't win because they're novel. They win because alternatives can't execute fast enough without accumulating risk. The most important changes in financial infrastructure rarely arrive with fanfare. They emerge when existing systems can no longer keep pace with how institutions actually operate. As decision-making becomes faster and more automated, settlement must evolve to match it, not by abandoning regulation or trust, but by embedding them into the execution layer itself. This is not about the end of Swift or correspondent banking. It's about what comes next, and how the plumbing of global finance adapts when machines start setting the tempo. The open question isn't whether institutions will automate decisions, It's whether their settlement infrastructure can evolve quickly enough to support them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next deep dive. This channel is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and is not financial advice. Always do your own research and keep the discussion respectful. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, or sharing it with a friend.